Welcome back to another episode of Decoded. My name is Jesse, and I'm the writer, director, and narrator for the Lost Codex episodes. And welcome to the first podcast of 2019. We've been doing the podcast. We are on episode 34, so the Decoded's birthday is coming up in a few months, and I apologize for the lack of podcasts over the last couple weeks. Christmas and New Year's and just the holiday season in general was not my favorite time of year, but to all those who tuned in to the streams in December, 31 days of solid streaming. We did it. A week yesterday was our last stream for the year. I'm back. I streamed last night. For those of you who weren't in the stream last night, for those of you listening to the podcast audio, whether it's on YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, I am going to be putting out a schedule, an official Jesse office hours schedule coming up soon. It's going to be 5 days a week, I'm thinking. Definitely evening Monday streams, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, one of those will be a day off, will be afternoon streams. Friday will be a bit of a longer stream, and then one weekend stream. So I want to make sure there's enough time for all you Europeans or Australians or New Zealanders who can't tune into the evening streams because I'm East Coast, Canada East Coast, time zone at least. I want to try and make it so you guys can tune in. So definitely keep an eye out on Twitter and our Discord and our Twitch page for all the details on when those office hours are going to be. But 31 days of streaming, good lord. But for those of you who only listen to the podcast and don't care or cannot watch the podcast live, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not being around. But I'm back. I'm back, and we're ready to talk about a whole bunch of stuff today. Those of you who were watching on YouTube, you clicked on the thumbnail. That thumbnail, though, which at the time of saying this has yet to be created, but I have faith that Jeff is going to make a great thumbnail, clickbait worthy too. For we're talking about class customization today based on your race. We're going to talk about tinkers. We're going to talk the big T word. And there's a lot going on. There's just a lot to talk about. I was kind of struggling for a topic, and then I thought, this is perfect. So, before we dive into that, let's talk about some weekly news. The Blizzard, the big they, put out the raid preview for the Battle of the Zara lore and the schedule that's behind that. So, for those of you who missed it, January 22nd, so a couple weeks from now, normal and heroic difficulties will be going live on January 22nd for US realms, 23rd for EU. Mythic and Raid Finder Wing 1 will be January 29th, Raid Finder Wing 2 will be February 12th, and Raid Finder Wing 3 will be February 26th. For those of you who don't know, there are 9 bosses, and the description for the Battle of Dazara lore is as follows. For ages untold, Dazara lore has stood at the center of the great and powerful Zandalari Empire. For those wondering, by the way, that actually was a different description on the PTR, and it was changed. It used to say, it basically imply that Dazara lore was the capital over Zuldazar. While Zuldazar has actually been both in lore and in an RPG, literally the name Zuldazar has been in World of Warcraft since the very beginning, but the raid description implied that Dazara lore was the actual name, and then it was changed. So it reads now as, for ages untold, Dazara lore has stood at the center of the great and powerful Zandalari Empire. Its guards have thwarted numerous attempts on King Rastakhan's life, and it has endured trials both ancient and new. But as war reaches the shores of Zuldazar, the Alliance embarks on a daring gambit to besiege the Golden Pyramid and sever the Zandalari's bond to the Horde. Now, for those of you who don't know, this raid is going to have both neutral-themed bosses, not neutral-themed bosses, but bosses that are Alliance-themed, Horde-themed, and kind of in the middle. Which means you'll be raiding as both the champion you play, but you're also going to get to see the opposite faction side. Now, if you don't want spoilers for what's happening, I'm going to try and give as, little spoilers as possible for this raid. But for the Horde players, they announced what races you will be. So if you're a Blood Elf, most Blood Elf players will transform into humans, while Demon Hunters will become Night Elves. Goblin Heroes will transform into Gnomes. What an insult. Except for Hunters and Shamans, who become Dwarves. Orcs will transform into Dwarves. Talk about a shift perspective. Pandaren will stay as Pandaren. Most Tauren will turn into Draenei, while Druids will become Night Elves. Trolls will mostly transform into Night Elves. Oh, the irony. Troll Shamans will become Draenei, and Warlocks will become human. And the Undead, these players will transform into humans. And the bosses are as followed. The Champions of the Light is going to be the first boss. As the vanguard for the Alliance's assault on Dazara Lore, Frida Ironbellows leads her troops with fervor and conviction. I believe she's a Dark Iron Paladin. Which is pretty cool. Her battle prowess and unwavering faith in the light makes her a force to be reckoned with. Then we've got Grong, the Jungle Lord. After volunteering to become a living super weapon, the once intelligent Grong devolved into a giant rampaging behemoth. Though his mind may have deteriorated, Grong's strength is more immense than it has ever been. And then we have the Jade Fire Masters. Though they began training only recently, Mansroy and Mestra have perfected their teamwork and now present a united front. With both fire and fists, they stand ready to strike down any who challenges the Alliance. I believe this is a Cultist human mage and a Draenei monk, which is a really random combo. Blizzard probably spun a wheel. That is the most random. I'm not upset, it's just, why? Why them? Anyways, then we have the next part, which is called the Defense of Dazara Lore. Then we have Death's Bargain. Witness King Rastakan's defiant stand against the bloodthirsty Alliance invaders. We have a boss called Opulence. Long ago, King Dazar had his golden treasury enchanted so that it would rise against anyone except its rightful owner. Many unsuspecting thieves have been slain by the very riches they coveted, serving as an important lesson to those who would steal from the throne. Literally, you are fighting a treasure elemental. Conclave of the Chosen. Deep within Dazara Lore lies a chamber built to honor 6 of Zandalari's greatest Loa, guarded by their most devout followers. Trespassers who dare enter this sacred hall are soon met with primal fury like none they have ever seen. Bunch of trolls who represent the different Loas, and they actually got really cool Loa-themed armor. I thought that the armor was actually like boss models, but apparently they're actual item models just on regular Zandalari trolls. So like Paku's representative is wearing like a Paku mask and it's actually an item. Unfortunately, they don't drop those items, so let's hope that in the future maybe they could be, that'd be really cool to have like a Paku mask or a Gonk mask. That'd be cool. King Rastakan. For over 200 years, King Rastakan has ruled the Zandalari Empire. Since the fall of Razan, spoilers, he has turned to a new patron, Buon Samdi, the Lua of Death. The dark bargain he has made grants him the power to crush his enemies. But at what cost? So, those are the first two raids for the Horde. Then the last part for the Horde is called Victory or Death. And the Horde players obviously do not fight King Rastakan, or the Conclave of the Chosen. That is where you play as the Alliance. So the first raid, the first part you start as Horde, second part you start as Alliance, third part you go back to being Horde. And you chase after the Alliance, who have just laid siege to Dazara Lore. The first boss is the man himself, High Tinker Mechatork, unrivaled in their... oh, my page has reset. Oh my god. Unrivaled in their what? Well, first boss is Mechatork. Crap. Technical difficulties. Second boss is the Stormwall Blockade, or Stormtide Blockade. Bunch of Kultirist priests and Tide Sages, that's what I'm talking about. I believe one of their names is Tide Priestess Catherine, and I was really not hoping, but I thought, it's not Catherine Proudmoore, is it? Spoilers, it's not. And the last boss is Jaina Proudmoore. The MMO champion is blown up because this page isn't loading. RIP! And they actually, Oh, here we go. As the Alliance fleet withdraws from Dazar'alor, Lady Jaina Proudmoore stays behind with a handful of Kultiran vessels to slow the Horde's pursuit. Storm clouds gather overhead as Jaina leads her pursuers deeper into the Great Sea, where she will attempt to turn the odds in her favor. She literally freezes a landmass, and you fight her there. It was actually really cool. I don't know if it's actually going to make it to live, but if you if you pop Bloodlust, she just ice blocks, and you can't attack her, which is actually pretty cheeky. Now the Alliance, what do the Alliance transform into? The Alliance Draenei will transform into Tauren, save for mages who will become orcs. Dwarves will turn into orcs, paladins will become Tauren, priests will become undead. Gnome will transform into goblins, except for monks, obviously. You know what? They should have just let gnome monks turn into goblins, because the goblin monk animations exist, but that means they'd have to put in goblin monks, so I get why they didn't. Who will become blood elves? Most humans will become undead, but paladins will become blood elves. Night elf players will transform into trolls, except for demon hunters, who will become blood elves. Pandaren stay the same, and all Worgen will transform into trolls. Now the bosses for the Alliance are Champions of the Light, same boss, only you're fighting some Zandalari paladins. This is where we were first kind of confirmed that Zandalari could be paladins, though it wasn't really confirmation, it was just a raid boss has it. With the bulk of Rastakon's forces lured into Nazmir, the time has come to storm the city. Afterwards you fight Jadefire Masters, again a mage and monk combo. Then the Alliance actually gets to fight against Grong, only this time Grong is now dead because of the Horde. So Buon Samdi resurrects him, and you fight undead Grong. Rip Grong. And then you go in and you attack Opulence, the Conclave of the Chosen, then you fight Rastakhan himself, and then you turn into the Horde for Mekatork, Stormwall, and Jaina. Kind of cool that Blizzard's allowing you to see both sides of the story and actually going to change your appearance. I think that's we've seen that before in different instances, like Caverns of Time and what's the other one? Oh my god. All the Caverns of Time. The Well of Eternity, stuff like that. So it's cool that it's not just your one solid race. It would have been a little bit neat if they would have allowed you to turn into some Zandalari or Kultiris humans. Just a little sneak preview of those animations. With I guess the exception of Warlocks. If you play a Warlock, you become... Or it'd be really cool if you could choose. That would have been really cool. But I would have loved when you play the Horde version. But I guess when you're fighting, it's not the Zandalari who attacks Mekatork, it's the Horde. So I guess I can see why. I guess. So still, I would have loved to see that. By the way, and someone actually here in chat just pointed out, it's not just the appearances, but you also get their associated racials as well, which is really cool. So be excited, everyone, except for Pandaren, because you don't gain anything at all. Except the coolest melee animations out there. More weekly news is we have a lore stream. If you're listening to this on Stitcher, iTunes, or SoundCloud, then the lore stream from Blizzard is going to be tomorrow on Thursday, January 10th. For those of you watching on Twitch right now, it's not tomorrow because today's Tuesday. And the stream is going to be led by Steve Denusur. I'm sorry, Steve, I'm butchering your name. Who's the senior narrative designer for World of Warcraft, and Taryn Gregory himself. We don't really know if it's a Q&A like the Josh and Ian Q&As, or if it's going to be more like a Q&A, a 8.1 Ian stream that he did before BlizzCon. Either way, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. If you're listening to this and you can tune in and watch, go watch it. Go throw Steve and Taryn your support. You know, these guys, they've never really done, and they being Blizzard, has done a lore stream like this before. So this is huge. And I hope the community, I hope it's a positive feedback, because that means this will get done more. Blizzard used to do CDev Q&As back in the day. where they just dropped whole bunches of lore bombs everywhere. And I don't say lore bombs in a negative term. I mean just like, oh yeah, casually mentioning some pretty big lore facts that you're like, oh my god. But Blizzard hasn't done that in a while. So if we encourage or we support this lore stream, maybe we'll get more of that in the future. And if they don't answer your question, or the answer they give is a little bit fluffy, don't scream. You know, ask it for the next time. If we scream and stomp our feet, guess what? This will probably never happen again. So let's not ruin it for everyone else. Let's be good. And we're going to move on to the actual meat and potatoes of the... and to quote Taliesin and Evitel, yes, it's going to be a shit show, as we know. So, for those of you listening here, let's fight the shit show. Let's go in and be the actual good people. Let's not be the toxic Twitch chat, do you not have phones comments. This is not about anything else but the lore of Battle for Azeroth, which is great and awesome, so let's go be awesome and support them. Otherwise, we'll probably never see it again. Let's dive right into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, which is talking about class customization, tinkers, and so much more. Now, Legion built on class fantasy. Legion really sold you on, I'm gonna say, limited class fantasy. The Druid class fantasy was amazing. We got to see all the, you know, so many of the at least the Night Elf wild gods. But things like warriors bothered me in that it really only applied to humans. In that we go to the Halls of Valor, which was cool.